AATBirds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need.
Quick, he's going to go. What a give it to Scott, and they stop. So back. He looks, fires for the end zone, intercepted, the 20, the 10, the 5, touchdown, Matt Ware, midfield, he's at the 40, he's going to go, Deshaun Jackson, he steps up, he's hit, and falls forward, and he fumbles the football, and the Eagles have it, it's gone, and the Eagles win.
It's all birds, all the time.
All right, and welcome to the AATBirds Weekly Report. I'm joined, as always, by my guy, Kay, Beck, Eagles, Kendall, down below, and we have a special guest, Gayle Saunders from 4th and Jawn at Eagle Sessions. So, of course, I'm myself, Johnny U, and going to talk some Eagles free agents, but how you guys doing?
Hey, man, I'm glad to be on the show with you guys, man.
So we're going to talk some Eagles free agents. We all kind of compiled a little bit of a list on some ideas that we can potentially see, who we may want to see, who we think's potentially realistic for the Eagles to target this offseason. It's going to be busy. They're going to have a lot of moves. It's going to be pretty hectic because of all the free agents they have, and also what they need to do to fill out the roster. Also, we're going to talk about the new officially offense and defensive coordinators have been named. We'll probably dive a little bit more into the defensive coordinator just because it is an outside name coming in. So we have that to talk about. And I have a little bit of a gripe to go over when people are talking about Desai and Gannon and basically saying it's the same thing. So we'll get into that a little bit later as well. But now it's going to talk some free agents, guys. I want to get Gayle's thoughts on because last show we talked about the free agents that the Eagles have, and I know you did a show last night talking kind of about stay or go, to talk about these free agents. Give me, outside of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, because I know he's kind of a name everyone's like needs to stay, all that. I know he had his little gripe today in terms of what he posted and down and everything, but yeah, give me kind of somebody that you would think Eagles should keep, whether it's one of the lower guys or whether it's one of the high price guys. You're thinking, who is one guy outside of, I guess, Gardner Johnson you think that this team needs to try and keep as best as they can?
But shout out to Chauncey for being a real one. I kind of sort of liked it, even though if I'm the front office, I didn't like it, but as a fan, kind of like it.
I agree.
He's one of us. The giant killer, Boston Scott. At the end of the day, his role is whether it's on special teams or just that guy that gives you that spark plug. Talk about Sproles Jr. For you're not paying the guy a lot of money. At the end of the day, he comes in for vet minimum. What you can get him for maybe $1 million, I think, and then you play the Giants twice a year, so that this is worthy of the money that could give Boston Scott. So he's one guy that. I think they have to sign him.
Yeah, I think what he's done, especially, I'll even say, him kickoff returns last year, towards the end of the year, they started to get a little bit, they didn't get a kick return touchdown, but a little break. It wasn't that, you don't get any yards. He was, had a burst there. He was able to get some yards for them, get him in some pretty good field position. But I think all around, he deserves kind of what he's shown. And even just take a look. When he's called into action, he produces, and that's huge, especially, in this offense when the focal point of running the ball with Jalen and using Jalen almost as a decoy sometimes. But I think Boston Scott, anytime he's asked to do anything, he finds the hole, he shoots out. He's smaller, but he's still stocky, and he can give you some good reps in the passing game too, which I want to see a lot more of in terms of the screen game and using the running backs out of the backfield. And I think with Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott, and depending on what they do, free agency, the draft, in terms of that running back, third running back, or that other running back position there, I'm pretty excited to see what this group, especially Kenny Gainwell because he really came on in the playoffs, and they used him a lot. And I don't know your take on it, but I love seeing Gainwell get the reps because him coming out of Memphis, I really like that. I know he was out for the COVID year, so it was kind of getting his legs under him, his rookie year, and then towards the end of this season, he was really, really playing well in the playoffs and even showing out there, which they needed.
Fifth round running back on that contract is very nice. You're talking about balling on a budget. I think he fits the mold. I think, but I'm going to think about an OG that we should bring back. A big fan favorite, Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham. If you're going to talk about getting it's a feel good story, but I actually interviewed Brandon Graham beginning of the season last year, before the season started, saying he was in the best shape of his life. A lot of players say that, and he said he got injured so early that he got to take care of parts of his body that he'd never had the opportunity to. So he really focused on getting healthy, and he talk about a role player getting 11 sacks. At the end of the day, having those kind of leaders in the locker room, and like you said, fresh legs. That's tremendous, and maybe he gives us a nice little discount.
No, it's I really like Brandon Graham, what he did and what he brings you, especially everything, leadership aspects, everything there. I think he is definitely somebody, and hopefully he takes a pay cut because I know he's been talking about Philly and he really wants to stay and everything like that. So maybe you can work a deal that kind of fits with Jalen getting a contract and everything, but. I want to start with your list, Gayle, on some free agents here, and I'll let you take it away once I pull it up on the screen.
Okay. Let me start with one of my favorites. I'll go with Jamal Williams, a guy that I'm going to say he's been one of those guys that I wanted us to draft. I saw his potential. I had his whole family lineage liking all the posts that I post about him. BYU was sending stuff out. That's how much of a stan I was. And the fact that we drafted Donald Pumphrey instead of him, and he gets picked up like 2 picks later by the Packers. It really, a guy who breaks Barry Sanders' rushing record. These are things, at the end of the day, I think he's a role player at the end, but he's got a vibe to him. Like when you're talking about a locker room full of characters, full of, you even look at his speech to the team about the record, in the passion he showed. You're talking about infusing this kind of player into a locker room. At the end of the day, it's really about getting players that make sense for the locker room, but also bring value on the football field. I think you can get them at a nice discounted rate. Obviously, the draft class is tremendous. So, if you're going to bring in a guy, I think he makes sense. He says he's a bona fide nerd, big Pokemon guy. He is himself, and I think Eagle fans love players that are themselves. Jacoby Brissett, he's a guy, when called upon, he can give you, good snaps. You talk about Jalen Hurts, the way that he plays, sometimes he could, get hurt, but we need a guy that can come in and give you at least 2-3 games if you need him. Gardner Minshew fails in that aspect this season. So I think Jacoby Brissett comes in at a nice rate. I think and all these guys fit my budget for the most part. Chuck Clark, guy, there's talks about bringing him in during the offseason last year, maybe a trade. Was he too long in the tooth? Were they going to move on? They brought a safety in via the draft in the top of the draft that a lot of people loved out of Notre Dame, but he still held his own. Again, he's a guy who's a leader, can give you if you're going to bring in somebody for a year, it could make sense. We don't know what the deal is with Epps. obviously want Chauncey back, but we're talking about leadership, bringing guys in that make sense, that are leaders, and role players. And then Levante David, we're talking about a guy again, leader, one of the second best coverage linebackers in the league. We talk about that little Lion King scenario, little D'Amico Ryans, Jordan Hicks, pass the torch to Kobe Dean. That would be a nice little tandem. I'm sure he can relay the knowledge. I think, and at the end of the day, I think we really need to start thinking about linebacker play in terms of you got to make some plays out there. Every solid quarterback in this league knows where to attack the Eagles. You attack them in space. You attack them in the seam. You attack them with the over routes. So I think Levante David, if he's looking for, we talk about the Bucs being, could they be in a rebuild year? Could they look to move him? I think maybe he gives the Eagles a discounted rate if he's trying to win a Super Bowl. 33 years old. It's Howie season. You really want to ball on a budget. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's really about balling on a budget. Last year was a tremendous offseason. You couldn't get any better. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was one of my, again, draft favorites. The fact that we got him, Bradbury, there were so many guys that made sense. It was like he was playing Madden, franchise mode, because he went totally with the trades off scenario. He was doing God's work last season. But I thought these four guys made sense. I was really trying to find guys that really, that I would target. Not so much say Howie, but I'm trying to speak it into existence.
What do you think, Kendall, in terms of this list and the players?
Yeah, no, I definitely love the David pick. I think he's been one of the best linebackers in the league the past decade. Also very underrated. Like Gayle said, he's very smart. He knows where to find the ball. Pass wise, he's great. Run wise, he's excellent. Great leader. Again, he would be able to teach Nakobe Dean plenty. I see a lot of Nakobe Dean and David. A lot of David and Dean. Again, I would love to see those two next to each other. Is it about if he's willing to come here, take a discount, hopefully win a championship. Brissett, I was big on last year. Again, he's always answering the bell when he gets thrown in there. Great veteran who pretty much just accepts his role and doesn't pout. I think he would be a great option if he was brought in. So definitely, even Jamal Williams, if he's not going to ask for a whole lot of money, I think he can be great behind his offensive line. So,
yeah, no, I think, looking at the players and looking at the Eagles in terms of veteran free agents on the market, and especially ones that know they're not going to get a huge deal and know they're in their 30s, some of these guys, they want to just win. And the thing about it is, when you look at a team like the Eagles, who were in the Super Bowl last year, and you have these veterans that, they may take a tiny bit less to be able to play on a team that can get to the Super Bowl. And, the Eagles are going to have a lot of free agents leave. We know that. So there's going to be open spots. There's going to be, some of the younger players, they're going to get their time. The Nakobe Deans, the Jordan Davises, the Cam Jurgens, being able to get their play, their time next year. But when you're looking at the list, I love Chuck Clark last year. I was a big proponent. I think he fits that. Basically, I like him because I like his mentality. I like that type of player. Same thing with Levante David. I love the mentality. I love that type of linebacker, and he's been through it all, and I think he'd be a perfect fit, kind of a plug and play. I know we have a comment here about Bobby Wagner. I know Bobby Wagner is around the same age, but I think his price range is just a little too steep, in my opinion, because he knows he had such a great year last year that he can make still a good amount of money. Yeah. So I'd love to have him, but I don't see, that happening or coming to fruition. So I'm going to bring up Kendall, and you can go ahead. Go with yours. What do you got?
Alrighty, so first of all, I mean, the Eagles are obviously going to have a very busy offseason. It may not be as exciting as last year, but it's going to be just as busy, if not more, because they have so many free agents, they have so many holes to fill. As you can see, I have a good bit of household names, just because the team doesn't have time to develop, new players, just because their window is now, and they also can't afford younger free agents who are demanding a whole lot of money. So I have a lot of guys who are probably going to be on like 1-year deals or maybe a 2-year deal, so on and so forth. But we'll start with Patrick Peterson. The Eagles and Peterson had interests joining together, I think in 2021 or 2020, whatever it was. He's pretty much at the point of his career where like he can still be very productive as a number 2, and he doesn't need to be the featured number 1. So with him, with Slay and Maddox, that kind of solidifies. It gives you enough for the season. Again, it's hard to replace James Bradbury, but Peterson played well last year, and I think he can give you plenty of good reps as number 2. And he'd only might be here for a year or two if he was to be here. So he also wouldn't cost too much either. Second one, I have Mariota. I originally had Jared Sivan here just because I knew that they probably don't want to bring back Minshew just because of how that went last year. Bad experiment. Forget about it. I think Stidham had flashes last year, but ever since Mariota got released, it's him. He's not no Jalen Hurts, but he's mobile enough to where he can somewhat mimic Hurts just in case he gets hurt. He has a good enough arm to get the ball to Goddard, Smith, Brown. He's also started plenty of games, even playoff games. So he has that experience, that veteran leader experience where you can get out of him. You need a late Nick Foles run. Third one is Kareem Hunt. Eagles were rumored to trade for him at the deadline last year. I feel as if he's like the more complete back that like the Eagles want out of Saunders. Saunders obviously had a great year, over 1,000 yards first time in his career, but he's not that complete receiver that you want to, and I feel like Kareem Hunt gives you that. Again, he probably isn't going to be asking for a ton of money. He probably fits their budget, and he brings you what you want out of running back. And you pair him with Gainwell, you have those two guys in the backfield with Hurts at the same time. That's plenty of a mismatch for defenses. Fourth one, DeMarcus Walker. I only say bring him in if BG doesn't come back. Walker's off a career high of 7 sacks. He's only 28. If you're gonna bring him in, he'll probably get like a 2 to 3 year deal. He has fresh legs. I think he can bring you a lot as a backup defensive end off the edge. Again, I'm sure he won't be demanding as much, but and then the last one's Marvin Jones. He's pretty much the perfect veteran, like wide receiver 3, possession guy who's just going to catch everything, and that's what this offense needs, especially with Quez Watkins not rising to the occasion when you need him to the most. He had some flashes in his young career, and I think he has the tangibles, but you need someone who's reliable, and that kind of paid dividends during the Super Bowl. Quez catches that ball, probably a different result of the game. So I think Marvin Jones is that perfect wide receiver 3. Again, going to be cheap, 1 year deal, enough to just get through the year, and then you can find someone else later in the draft next year. So, but if I had to choose someone who's most likely on this list, I'm going to go with probably Patrick Peterson.
So, you don't have to keep referencing the Super Bowl. The scar is trying to heal, and you keep.
I'm sorry. I just
keep digging at it. But look at this list. For me, the Mariota is almost like the full circle of 2015.
Oh yeah.
When Chip Kelly wanted to get Mariota so bad, even though he couldn't trade for him because the Titans were wanted to get him anyway. They were going to pick him anyway. It was that's just funny in my eyes. But he does kind of fit of what you do. I just don't know because he basically quit on the Falcons last year. So
that was weird. Weird. That's not good for character-wise.
Especially Arthur Smith was with the Titans when he was with the Titans. So it was odd there. But Patrick Peterson, I could see that. Oh, 1-year deal, especially if they don't get Bradbury back. To me,
One thing.
I
A
can see
lot of
that.
these guys depends on the way the draft goes, and also who they bring back. Like if they go, Christian Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon, with the first pick, obviously Peterson isn't going to be there. Peterson's going to be a guy who comes in after the draft probably. I guarantee you he won't sign before. Same with maybe even like Marvin Jones. They go receiver, second round or late first with Jackson Smith. Then probably not going to bring in Marvin. So
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt is a guy that I was, he runs with that power. I know he would love a bigger role. I think when you're running hand in hand with Chubb, you're not going to get the opportunities that you'd like. I think in terms of a three-headed monster, he's a guy that could come in, give you that power. It's like Mariota and Peterson. These are like the guys that woulda, coulda, Philly guys that could have, the Eagles, wanted Peterson via trade, but Mariota, Eagle fans are already rocking Mariota jerseys before he was even drafted. So
that was a crazy era.
yeah, it was a weird time. So, but Jones Jr., I think in terms of bringing another guy in who can give you a little bit more something than Zach and a little bit more than Quez, again, I think at the end of the day, when you look at our wide receivers and how they're set up, you do have 1, 2, 3 locked. As much as Eagle fans want Quez out of here, he's here for a he's locked in. But if you look at the money, I think the dead cap is around like 46,000. So that if they let them loose, they'll save about 2.7 mil.
Yeah,
that's not bad, So I mean, if you're trying to take somebody off and add somebody in, we'll see. We'll see. I do like Zach Pascal, what he brings to the table as well, but I think he might want to come into more of a role for a team and make some money. I mean, because the way that you're playing with the Eagles, this is not going to get you another contract, a big contract.
And he's the type of guy I wouldn't, I could see him going back to Indianapolis. I know Steichen's there, possibly going there to Indianapolis, a little bit bigger of a role because they need receivers in terms of Paris Campbell's a free agent, and Alec Pierce is still a young player, and I could see them possibly being able to use him a little bit more than the Eagles would be able to use him. So I do think he's going to be looking for an opportunity, even out there in Carolina, like with Frank Reich. He played with Frank in Indy, so potentially out there to get an opportunity. But I think he wants a bigger opportunity, and I think he may find that somewhere else, unfortunately. But yeah, it's going to be the whole Quest thing is going to be interesting to watch this offseason.
I feel as if Pascal did a good job of embracing his role. I mean, he seemed to be happy with his time in Philly. I know Sirianni loves him. I'm sure he loves Sirianni. I would love to have Pascal back because he's very good. He's a guy that does dirty work, and guys like that, like him, don't get enough credit. And he was very good when he was in. A lot of those screens or a lot of those quick throws that got were due to Pascal getting him open. So that's one guy I would like to see back. It is Pascal, and hopefully he likes the system and likes the team enough to be back. So.
I mean, talk about an upgrade over J-Jaw. Like when J-Jaw, they talk about his blocking. Like
he's exactly what they wanted him to be.
Yeah, exactly. So I was happy with his play this year.
All right, the players that I had here. All right, so
no drum roll.
What?
No drum roll. I mean,
no drum roll. Don't. I have Bobby Trees, Robert Woods. He got cut from the Titans, a veteran receiver, perfect slot guy. Because, you look at the Eagles and you look at their offense, they don't need a slot receiver that can spread the field. They have AJ, they have Devontae. They don't need someone that can spread the field, go down deep. They need someone kind of in the intermediate area and, short area quickness, that short area, that small. He's perfect. He's the perfect slot receiver. Now, of course, the money is what it's going to be. And that's when I kind of talked about certain veterans being able to, come and play on, the Eagles trying to, the Super Bowl window, trying to play for a winning team. Because, of course, the Titans, I don't know what they're going to be doing is with Tannehill, Malik Willis. I have no idea where they're headed, what they're doing in that division, what they're doing in terms of what their players. They cut a bunch of players. So I would love to see him with the Eagles. I know the Eagles were interested before he was traded to Tennessee last year. So, you have that there. So the next guy I have Greedy Williams. Again, he's a young guy, but he has been hurt a little bit and kind of buried on the depth chart for the Browns. I know he was a trade candidate last year for the Browns. Eventually the Browns did not trade him, kept him on the roster. But he'd be a guy that I could see the Eagles signing and then also being able to draft a guy as well. Just because, I know Darius Slay is there, but you do also have to think about the fact that he is 32 years old. How much more time does he have? This Greedy Williams, potentially, if it winds up hitting and going well, hopefully it doesn't turn out like the other Williams they signed years back, Kerry Williams. But again,
Wisconsin.
Yeah. But I thought, low risk. I don't think he's going to cost you a ton of money with him being hurt. So I think that's, a low risk, potentially high reward type of player. Defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi. He had a couple of seasons with some pretty decent sack numbers. He would be my replacement if Javon Hargrave goes elsewhere. A guy that has some quickness, able to, get to the quarterback. He's a type of player that I could see the Eagles potentially looking into. He's going to cost a whole lot cheaper than Hargrave. He's not going to be super cheap, but he's not going to cost you $13, $14, $15 million a year. So he's definitely, and of course, Fletcher Cox as well, most likely moving on. So you need someone in there. I know you have Milton Williams. I know you have Jordan Davis. But I still think you need a veteran there. You need another body because I do think they're going to address that position potentially in the draft as well. The next guy I have is safety Will Harris from the Detroit Lions, 6'1", 206. Bigger safety, kind of like a little bit of a Marcus Epps type of mold, but again, another guy that's not going to be super expensive. There's a lot of safeties on the market, a whole heck of a lot of safeties on the market. So again, the prices, for someone like Will Harris, maybe a little bit less. And then the Eagles had Reed Blankenship play with a lot, 3 safeties. Gardner Johnson, of course, is the priority. Epps, I believe, potentially moves on because also remember, and I want to give it Epps connection here, not saying it's going to happen. But if it does happen, I will toot my horn. If it doesn't happen, we won't say it again. So is Marcus Epps. He was claimed from the Vikings back in 2019, I believe, when Jim Schwartz was with the Eagles. Jim Schwartz is now with the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns just cut John Johnson. So there's a little bit of potentially a spot there for Marcus Epps if, Jim Schwartz really likes him. And they did develop him. He is a developmental piece that, worked out well for the Eagles. So I could see that. And then last guy, Al-Quadin Muhammad he played with the Colts. He has the familiarity with Sirianni for the Colts aspect. He was with the Bears last year. Kind of an edge guy. This is if you don't bring back, if BG doesn't come back, if you have a couple guys. Derek Barnett is there. I'm not sure how healthy he is. Robert Quinn, I don't think he's coming back. Even if BG does come back, I could see a guy like Muhammad being a guy that can come, give you some snaps, kind of what Patrick Johnson was giving you in terms of rushing the passer. But again, he's going to be a low cost, and he was released as well. Same with Robert Woods. So the reason I have those two guys too is talking about what Howie talked about is the comp formula. Guys who are released are not going to count against that. So I could see the Eagles targeting certain players who get released because it's not going to count against those compensatory picks. And when they lose free agents, it's not going to counteract them. It's not going to cancel them out. So thinking a little bit there.
Interesting.
I like it.
Woods, he's a guy that he can route him up. He's crafty. I think in terms of at the catch point, he's better than Quez. Yeah. At the end of the day, Quez has got to be more confident in his own abilities. At the catch point, you could how many games? The Cowboys game, Washington, and I'm not going to even say it.
Don't open that wound. Don't open the wound.
But you need reliable hands, and Woods can give you that.
I like the Larry Ojinobi pickup. Kind of giving this similar vibe of Javon Hargrave, from Pittsburgh, defensive tackle. I really want Javon back, but I just think he's going to be too expensive. And I know Howie and company, they value the trenches, and they probably want Javon back too. But with the cap is, Jack Rosenberg, Howie's cap guy, and Howie, they're going to try their best to get as much money as possible. But someone like him, I think he's going to fill that void. And Milton Williams played phenomenal towards the end of the season last year. Jordan Davis, and that he wasn't the pass rusher that we wanted him to be, but he still played great even with him being banged up. So I don't think they're going to look to find a starter elsewhere. I think they're going to ride with Davis and Milton Williams going into the season, and then it's all about just finding depth behind those guys. You
guys think? To see Fletch and Javon go, I'd be shocked. Somebody.
I think Fletch is as good as gone. I think Fletch once he gets his money, and then Javon also going to be 30 or 31.
Hollis Thomas was talking to us, and he was telling us that prior to the season he was on a show with Fletcher Cox, and he said that Fletcher was talking about playing in KC.
Dude, he can't do that, bro. He can't do that.
This is a pre Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's probably that he can't do it anymore. Where did I see someone mentioned about Fletch going somewhere else? I'll have to think about it. Who it was, but I think
I said Cleveland. I remember I texted you. I texted you.
Yeah, you might have said Cleveland. It might have been you.
Of course, Jim Schwartz connection. But
did you guys see that tweet by the Eagles about running it back, or it was 2 days ago?
No, because I didn't see that. I saw something. What should we do this offseason? I saw someone, tweet that, but running it back.
It was running it back, or part 2 or something. Did you see that tweet? I was I still didn't understand what they meant by it.
I would love for them to run it back. I mean, if they can find a way. I mean, they're not going to be able to bring all the guys back. Howie even said that, but if they can find a way to bring some of the core guys back, if they can get back Fletcher, BG, and then find a way to have CJ in there, that would be big time. But
now, even if we do lose Hargrave, are they paying 11 mil dead cap on that? But I've seen that if they rework a contract, re-up with Hargrave, they wouldn't have to pay that dead cap.
See, I try to get some information to see, is that so if they sign him, the dead cap then disappears, or?
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
I don't know, because I tried to look into it. I think that dead cap is there, whether he's on the roster or not, because same thing happened last year with Teron Armstead and the Saints. So he signed with Miami, and of course that dead cap stays there. Now, if he would have re-signed with New Orleans, does that disappear? I tried to contact, the one cap guy that used to work for one of the sites and stuff. I didn't hear back because I just wanted to kind of get more clarity with that, because Eagles do a lot of teams do that with the void in the contracts, that they add the extra dummy years.
Oh,
if they wind up re-signing, do those dummy years negate? Do they not have that anymore? I want to try to get more clarification on that, because
Fletcher's got the dummy years in there.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm very surprised we haven't seen yet from Howie, is some kind of restructure, because Lane Johnson's definitely going to get restructured at some point, just because he's still willing to do that.
Lane, Slay, and
Elliott.
I think they could free up 25 mil.
I'm surprised he hasn't done any of that yet.
Yeah, 25. It was 25, 26. Yeah.
So I think that will happen.
But
I believe
but it shows of how much they're not in a rush. I mean, they said about how they didn't want to get anybody extended during the season because of the dynamic in the locker room, and they didn't want to, jump the gun. And obviously, you're gonna bite that bullet at some point. But I'm surprised we haven't seen anything yet.
So about that, the dynamic in the locker room, all that stuff. So I was listening to Ruben Frank talk about it, and they were kind of mentioning that, and I think a lot of it had to do with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So if they would have extended him after they traded, then you have some of the guys, the Hargraves, the T.J. Edwards, the Marcus Epps, who've been there, and then but you're signing this guy, so and not having to not disrupt chemistry, I guess. But I think some of it too was just an out to just kind of say that, because again, I think a lot of it is Jalen Hurts' contract. You want to know how it needs to be structured. You want to you may have a little bit of what it's going to be structured, but again, that's a lot of money to be able to place that, to be able to maneuver. You want to be able to. Now next year he's going to be on his last year of the salary. It's not going to be, but then the following year it's going to start however they structure it. I think that's another thing in line. You want to try to get that done because you want to know who you can sign and who you can re-sign and what you can do. And I think there's a lot of, like I said, there's going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of movement. There's going to be a lot of guys gone that the team's going to look a lot different defensively, especially defensively in 2023.
I mean, I think you pay them early, you get that discount.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have to pay regardless. But I think the way that how he always manipulates the cap, we'll have some nice years until it really just bangs you over the head with making 50 to 60. No, I mean 50 to. It's quarterback contracts are out of hand. Thanks, Kirk Cousins.
Right. I mean, when you look at it, when Mahomes got paid his $500 million, like everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, this is insane." But you look at it now, like he's a bargain. You know what I mean? So the Eagles are going to get Jalen paid first, and hopefully before Burrow and before Lamar, so that they don't get the market resetted. And Herbert, get those guys paid before. Oh yeah, because Watson's the whole reason why everything's ruined, because the Browns were desperate for Watson, and they're like, "Hey, we know you don't want to play here, but here's $250 million guaranteed. You're not going to walk away from that." So, now the whole NFLPA and the NFL just despises the Browns for that. So,
I think someone's got to step in here, okay?
So
because these quarterbacks are getting paid too much. These wideouts are getting paid too much.
It's crazy. You're looking, I saw an article back in 1995. So it was when the Eagles signed Ricky Waters, and the highest paid running backs were Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders. Emmitt Smith was $3.1 million a year.
That's crazy.
And Barry Sanders was $3.47 million a year. And it was funny because the salary cap, because then the Eagles signed Ricky Water. I think he was like 3.3 million or 3.4 million, whatever. But the salary cap was 36.1 million total.
That's crazy.
And you look now, it's
changed since then.
224, 225.
I got a random follow from Ricky Waters last year. Fangirled. I'm still fangirling. I don't know I want to reach out and be like, "I love you, man." But
my first jersey.
Do we think the Eagles are going to use the tag at all on anybody? I'm going to go out and say no, just because I feel as if Howie thinks that is lazy. It's because he's just too surgical. You know what I mean?
If they can't get a deal done with CJ, I think they'll place it on him to give him more time to work out the right deal. Otherwise, no. They haven't used. Last time they used it was with Deshaun. Right? It was with Deshaun back in, I think, 2012, I believe, when Andy
like a damn Olenek, bro.
Hey, I got just doing something. I did look at what you said. You said part 2, so I went on their Twitter, and I think this is what you had to know a part 2 was coming with a winky face.
Yeah. Okay. Now look.
It might have been about celebrations.
But
Hargrave and Cox.
But Hargrave, Fletch, I mean,
Bradbury.
James, that's weird. That's really weird. That's really, really weird.
And then of course there's Reddick.
Son.
Sweat.
Really
Sweat.
foreshadowing. They're foreshadowing something. I noticed today. I think I saw this today. Did they post a video with TJ Edwards in it?
There's no. I don't think Slay's here.
I don't know. Kaiser.
Kai's here. I don't think there's a TJ in here either.
Yeah, no, it's just those guys.
Today they posted a video of Edwards in it, and I thought that kind of was interesting because last year when I was following the Eagles Instagram and whatnot, they kept posting Jalen. I was like, there's no way Lurie is allowing them to just feed Hurts content if he's not going to be the guy. And so, everyone's speculating, it would be Russell Wilson or Deshaun or who the hell it is, but they kept feeding Jalen Hurts. So it's like, you got to just watch their content and they'll tell you for you.
What does that video say to you guys?
It's interesting.
Let's run it back.
See, now I didn't see that. So when I pulled it up and I watched it, when you said it,
this type of shit I'd be thinking about all day, every day. Wake up, I was like, what did that video mean?
There's no way that those first four guys were just by coincidence.
By the way, also, you talking about restructuring and everything like that with guys that was free up more money and stuff like that. Well, next year they can restructure Mailata, Sweat,
Goddard,
Goddard, and somebody I can't think of the last guy, and save like $38 million. So,
Jeez.
Hey, you know who wasn't in that video? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. What if they re-up on Bradbury and then bring a cheap safety in?
I have a few words about Chauncey. I kind of have a hot take about his tweet today. As much as I loved it as a fan, I know Howie and that company hated that thing. Because, listen. As much hate as we give Gannon, like that team, Howie and Lurie, they wanted Gannon back so badly. They offered him way more money to come back as a coordinator than what the Cardinals are giving him now. And again, it sucks that Chauncey did that because, number one, he's about to hit the market. Number two, the Eagles were probably either going to pay him or going to pay him. And you're going to make a big commitment. And it's like, stuff like that is not what you want to see when you're making a big commitment like that. And again, I understand it. What he said was not wrong, but it's like you can't say that because it's a bad look. The Eagles love keeping characters, don't like anything off field and whatnot. But again, not trying to defend Gannon here, but Gannon had Chauncey in position for 6 picks this year. So, he did his job, and obviously he didn't do it in the biggest stage, but I loved it from Chauncey, but then again, I was like, he's gonna do that too soon.
I was at the Eagles Autism Challenge, and I was speaking with some PR folks, and they said to me that Jalen Hurts makes their job so easy. What he is, who he is what you see. They don't ever have to worry about him in any capacity of any social media, anything. So the fact that they're aware of all things Eagles on timelines, the whole nine, I'm sure they saw that and they were like, delete. You better delete that shit.
Yeah. Chauncey loves going live on Instagram too. I always check in on him. He's always saying some goofy stuff.
Yeah, I mean that would be interesting. If you go back to that video, he's not in that video.
Something definitely to revisit. The other thing, about that, and what you said with Chauncey, the reason he was traded from the Saints is one, I don't think they could sign him, and two, I think a little bit the immaturity. But again, Definitely. He had no issues really. You didn't hear about any issues in the locker room this year and everything. Maybe the Eagles just had the leadership aspect, and
he did speak to that. And he spoke to Sirianni having a talk with him about maturity.
Yeah.
And him dialing it back, and had a great season. But I think in terms of if they want him to refocus, that tweet doesn't say refocus. That means you're doing
a lot
your own
of money
thing.
you're giving this guy, and he's got to be on point because you're basically securing his future, and you need him there, and you need him on the field. You need him, the camaraderie. You need him in the locker room. You need him every single day, especially
when you compare like his days with the Saints compared to like with the Eagles this year, like he was way less animated. He wasn't doing half of the smack talking he did with New Orleans. And again, I think a lot of that was making that transition and kind of having like an awakening. But it's the off season. I'm sure he's bored, as we all are. I'm sure he's anxious to get his deal. But I guarantee you, his agent was calling him real quick. Was like, dude, we can't do this. Like, take that down.
Take it down.
Yeah, someone told him to take it down because I got tagged in, and I'm like, yo, what tweet was this? I hit to do that tag me. I'm like, what did you just tag me in? Because it's deleted. What did it say? And then he's like, sent me the screenshot, and then I was like, okay, okay, let me put this out there.
Yep. I happened to see it like maybe a minute or two after it was posted, so I screenshotted it, and I'm like, I have to keep this because this is good.
Well,
stuff.
It makes you wonder, like, okay, is his voice a collective of the?
Remember, Fletcher had an issue last year.
Fletcher, yeah, bro. Fletcher and Gannon didn't get into it, but yeah. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, and he got into last year about
I don't get paid to do this.
I don't get paid to cover screens or whatever.
That's the thing. This is where it's the disconnect. It's like the team, like the front office, they love Gannon, wanted to bring him back, wanted to make him the highest paid coordinator ever. But then you hear guys like Chauncey and Fletch, there's a disconnect and like a silver lining with the team and players. It's like there's a difference. And I wonder why that is. And I wonder if the players, not glad that Gannon's gone, but like kind of feel like some kind of relief because, or maybe wanted some change, if you know what I'm saying.
Or be let loose. I mean, I've gotten to speak to Gannon a couple of times, and I'll be honest. When I left the conversation, I felt like this guy had charisma. I thought this guy had the self-awareness. I thought he had that, and I could see why, from a front office perspective, of like they like certain type of guys that they could see running their brand, running their operations of the way that he handles himself. Like this, because when people are like, how's this guy getting looked at as a head coach? I'm like, well, there's from a front office perspective and owner perspective, I could see how they would like his demeanor or the way he goes about things. But from a player's perspective, playing under him and his play style, maybe they want to let loose the wagons, and he's kind of holding back in quarters, chilling. I mean, I just think the thing when they know you're going to sit there and do what you do, I think at the end of the day, you can't be successful against these top-notch quarterbacks.
Yeah, and Gannon's very well spoken. Like he commands like the respect of the locker room. Like he's there's a reason why he's not going to be calling the plays in Arizona, and that he's just going to be the head coach. He's kind of just embracing what Sirianni is now. And I do think Gannon might be successful just because it's less pressure and he's more focused on the whole team of itself. And I think he has very good leadership skills in the sense of like just being very well spoken. But clearly there's some disconnect with the players, and that's interesting to me. So
you bring up Jonathan Gannon, which will kind of transition us into talking about the new Eagles defensive coordinator. The coaching in general. We know about Brian Johnson, going over to offensive coordinator. Don't really want to spend too much on that because we kind of already knew that was gonna happen. Marcus Brady's assistant, Alex Tanney's the new quarterback's coach, and they have TJ Paganelli. I think that's how you say it. It's kind of rounding out the staff there on the offensive side. Now the defensive side, staff still needs to be fully, accumulated in terms of getting everyone on, together in terms of new guys potentially. But Sean Desai is the new defensive coordinator. Formerly of the Chicago Bears, 2021, he was the defensive coordinator. He was on the staff with Pete Carroll last year with Seattle, and he was former Temple grad, or not Temple grad. Well, I think he was a grad. He went to school there, went to Columbia as well to get his, I think, doctorate. Or the guy's a smart guy. He's a teacher. The other thing is he was with Vic Fangio in Chicago for a number of years. So, under him in the defense, there's been a lot of guys, talking very highly of him. Sam Acho, who played for Chicago Bears, played with him. And to me, the one thing I hate is when I see people say that it's just Gannon 2.0. Gannon ran the same thing. Gannon wasn't a Fangio guy. He never coached under Fangio. He may have had certain little things he took from him, but he was a Mike Zimmer and Eberflus guy, from Indianapolis and from, Minnesota. So a lot of his concepts were more, if you look at more of, the Mike Zimmer aspect of things. Yeah, he did throw a little bit of the Fangio stuff in there. But what I want to quickly talk about is on Twitter, one of the best follows is NFL Honest. I don't know what he is, if he's a
awesome.
former Eagles scout, I former Eagles coach. I don't know.
Howie.
But
It's Howie's burner.
Howie Burner.
I wouldn't be surprised, man.
I would be surprised because the way the guy talks intricately. What I can't even.
Oh yeah, he's straight.
He's really.
game.
I don't know if Howie's that developed.
No, Howie's not that.
So this is what I want to bring up because this is awesome. What he brings up, Sean Desai's defense, and what I want to point out is the last two. The first two, it's I like that. I like the front structure, similarly how they've been in past years, with everything. But it's the way they do that, that's fine. But the last two are what I want to talk about. More utilization of formation alignment-based coverages. He gives some names there: luggage, ring, finger, 63, Zeus, etc. In order to maintain a strong front and cover structure relative to how the offense is threatening the matchups and field space without sacrificing serviceable gap integrity. And then the last one, creating mismatch up front. We'll see more of an emphasis. Desai won't hesitate to put the top edge rushers on the same side.
That's exciting.
Earn pass rushing situations, so advantageous. He also put up some film. But the other thing is, it is actually in the first one, the very bottom. Will be looking at the man zone, high, press, bail, rush, cover, everything that. But the best thing is, we'll have more of a variance to them and more pre-snap activity and physicality in coverage. Rerouting and collisioning in zone coverage structures will be an emphasis.
I mean,
we missed that this year.
We've been asking the pre-snap movement just to give it a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Right?
If you routing the guys,
if you sit there and make it look the same, you have to keep moving. You gotta make it look different.
What's crazy?
Look,
I remember when Gannon first got hired. It was like adding Kaplan or like inside the Birds. Kaplan was like, "Oh, Gannon's defense be a lot of preset movement, a lot of confusion, blah blah blah." It's like that was never here, and that's what it was so stale and it's shown in the Super Bowl. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're in. The thing is the rerouting of the. He even says on top, coverage structures will remain similar for the most part, but how they get to that coverage and mechanics with the play, it will be quite different and much more of a connection to the actual Fangio mechanics. That's telling right there, actual Fangio mechanics. So what Gannon ran, may have a little bit of principles in terms of what Fangio did or everything, but he was more, to me, more of a Mike Zimmer, and Matt Eberflus type of defense. It was more the Zimmer type of defense. But I think what Desai does, and he, NFL Honest put a bunch of cuts up of when they played the Bengals in 2021 and certain things and what they were doing, and it looks a little bit different of what the Eagles, were doing this year. Yeah, you're gonna see a tiny bit of some similarities. Some guys run certain similar things. Yeah, but this guy's a smart guy, and he's going to have the talent. We gave Gannon the benefit of the doubt in 2021 because the talent was so bad. And I know the thing about this year, they had 78 sacks. They led in passing, defense. The run defense was not as good. But for me, it's just I like what Desai brings, and for me, I'm excited to see what he does with the type of players he's going to have, because I think this collection of players is going to be better than what he had in 2021 with the Bears.
I think a lot of this offseason, I remember I had went to the NovaCare to see some practice, and then Hollis was telling me that, because he was there, and he was saying that Fangio was in the building, and he was the first one to tell me, because I didn't see any beats at all talk about Fangio being in the building or being a consultant or Fangio being addressed to as coach by the players. So I think they had a lot of respect for Fangio. I think the principles that they want of this defense, I think, having Desai be a disciple of that, I think they're gonna go with some. I'm probably sure they wanted Fangio in some capacity. Oh, yeah. So I think this is their next best thing. Obviously they're probably asking Fangio, who would you pick? So I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with the idea. Like, again, all these fans who will poo-poo the idea of Desai without even doing the research, going back and connecting the dots. You were saying that as some of his other resume, he attained his doctorate in educational administration at Temple in 2008. He received his undergraduate degree in philosophy and political science with a minor in biology from Boston University in 2004. Cum laude graduate of BU. He was recognized as the National Dean's List honoree, earned a master's degree in higher post-secondary education from Columbia in 2005. Also was an adjunct professor at Temple University. He taught a master's and doctoral programs in education administration. That's a big resume. That's not even saying football side of things, but from a teaching perspective, I think we'll see.
Yeah, he's got the clay there. He's just got to mold it.
Yeah, with Desai, I mean, I think they obviously wanted him. I don't know if he's the long-term answer. My thinking behind all this is that when Gideon first left, the media made it seem like it was Denard Wilson's job, like he was going to be the favorite. And then, they started bringing in a lot of outside guys like Vance Joseph, Minter, Desai, whatnot.
Minter finished second, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
And then, and then you were like, well, what's going on here? And then, you hear about how the Eagles offered Gannon a crap ton of money. I hope the Eagles aren't just settling, because this process took way, way longer than obviously they wanted to be. I mean, they literally announced the hirings right before how we talked yesterday. So they knew that they had to get it out before then. They flew out to Desai yesterday for the combine in time. My biggest concern is if they're settling and this is going to be a one and done, especially with the defense and the personnel. Obviously, this isn't going to be the same personnel Gannon had, and we can't be hard on Desai because he's not going to have the same personnel. So if we're not seeing results right away, we got to be patient. But I don't know if the team's going to be patient, because I don't know if they'll be looking for different candidates next year. So, again, he's a way more of a banjo guy than what Gannon was. I think he's going to bring a lot more creativity with the defense. I'm excited to see how he uses the front seven. Moves the secondary around, moves, top safety over top, disguises him. But again, you can tell the Eagles did not want to lose Gannon. They wanted to keep him around. And hopefully this is not a one and done. And I hope, this is a long-term guy, but we'll see what happens. But I'm excited to see what he's going to bring.
They did talk about, Desai's year as a defensive coordinator with the Bears. He dealt with all those injuries to their front seven: Khalil Mack, Eddie Goldman, Keem Hicks, Danny Trevathan, and then he had them playing competitively.
Right.
So I mean, if they like these philosophies and they want to play for the coach, obviously, Denard had the love of some of the players in the locker room. A lot of the guys wanted him as the defensive coordinator. But again, if the front office has a their say in their philosophy they like, decide probably win them over.
Yeah,
with the Geo backing.
And the other thing is they played in 2021. Everyone talks about the blitz percentage. His blitz percentage in 2021 was 22%. The Eagles last year was 24%. So they talk about the blitz percentage, and he doesn't blitz, and he's not aggressive enough. You get all that. So when they played the Baltimore Ravens, and Lamar Jackson, of course, is one of the best, one of the best quarterbacks. He's very, dynamic, what he can do. And they blitzed Lamar Jackson. Let me put it up here. I had it right there. And so Lamar Jackson, they had 81 defensive snaps. They blitzed him 41% of the time.
Damn.
33 blitzes on 81 snaps. So the whole aspect of they don't blitz, they don't do the right situation, I think will deem for him to be aggressive when he needs to be, and when he doesn't need to be aggressive, he's not. He's going to mix it up. He's going to be, make those adjustments, stuff like that. So I'm very excited to see what he brings, the talent he's going to have, how he builds it up, how he dials it up, how he draws it up. I'm excited to see that. Before we get out, I'm going to let you discuss. I think AJ Brown posted something. He tweeted at Juju.
But
I can't see what it was because it was deleted.
Just now?
So AJ posted a direct message he sent to Juju on Twitter. He deleted it, but here it is. It's deleted. And I quote, can I like swear on here?
I don't care. Go ahead. It ain't no family show.
I don't play them kid games. If you want to see me, I'm with it. You better go to Cabo and enjoy your rain and stop fucking with me. Leave me off all your TikTok pussy. And then he tagged Juju at the bottom, but now it says tweet deleted. If you guys can see that. So
somebody was that's crazy.
I mean, I don't love that, but like that's just who AJ is. He always does this where he just posts something where he knows he shouldn't have up there, but he puts it up, and the whole world sees it, and it's great content. But like, again, kind of hand in hand with Chauncey, like can't do that, but it's so funny.
Someone was saying like, "Hey man, what do you think about bringing Juju?" I'm like, "Bro," I said,
Dude.
"This is before. This is." I said this yesterday. I said,
"It's on site."
I said he will whoop TikTok boys' ass on site, and now here we go. The next day, I said, I told you they do not like each other. I said that would not fly in the locker room if you brought him in there.
I cannot wait for them to play next year because they're going to definitely be talking pregame if he comes back.
Of course, Juju's still running his mouth, everything like that. I will say this:
weird.
Antonio Brown is crazy. He was fucking right about Juju, 100%. What he said, the only reason he had good numbers was because of me. When Antonio Brown left, yes, he had 900 yards or whatever, but he's nowhere near the player that he was at all when Antonio Brown was on that team. So for me, he keeps running his mouth. First of all, he's a free agent. So
yeah,
whether he stays in Kansas City or goes somewhere else, I'd love go sign with Dallas because that'd be absolutely perfect.
Oh, that would be that'd be annoying because you hate him even more.
Even more.
Every catch, then he's got to. Oh god, I used to watch his YouTube content just to see what he would do. Like the random stuff he would like show up to like Steeler fans' weddings and crazy stuff like that. But this, when he got into TikTok, he just took it up another notch. That I was like, oof.
Yeah. again,
it's wild the amount of the power of social media, the cryptic messages you can put out, the fact that we will go to sleep tonight thinking about what that tweet Eagles put out. What does that mean?
Yeah,
there's a lot of cryptic stuff you can put out there. Very interesting.
AJ Brown just said, wait, no. What's these days? Yeah, he said, you really need to find you somebody else to play with. Don't let that ring get you beat the F up. Because I'm with all the dumb shit, I'm not gonna speak on it no more.
Oh, come on. It's this you gotta like some Jalen.
Yeah.
Should give him a call.
Yeah.
It is crazy because like this really is a difference between like AJ and Jalen. Like Jalen, again, great, phenomenal players, but like Jalen's character and like his way he like holds himself, like he doesn't ever let anyone get under his skin.
He might be drinking the brown liquor tonight. That could be it. That could be the Henny talking.
What's Jen? I had a purpose before you had opinion. Was that his thing? I had a purpose before you had an opinion. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's just it really shows you. But we'll see. Hopefully,
Jalen's so wise. Like he's just like, and the thing is like when he first came to the scene with Philly, like I was like, this guy's kind of corny. I was like, there's no way this guy is like actually like this is who he is. And it's like, you hear behind the scenes of people talking to him, or you see this continue to go on. It's like this dude's so genuine. And like the one that really got me was, I think it was the interview with what's her name, Maria Taylor, or what's the NBC host on Sunday Night Football?
I think it's Maria
she had an
Taylor.
interview with him and then brought in his dad, and like they are the same person, like Jalen and his dad. And I just know that Jalen's dad just raised him so well and taught him right, and Jalen just embraced it. And I'm so glad he's like this. Again, I don't want to sound like a crazy fanboy, he's just a perfect protocol quarterback. Because when you compare Jalen's character to good old Carson James Wentz, I mean, they're complete different people.
I was speaking with Coach Singleton. Shout out to my guy Liam, who hooked up a tour of the complex, and he was just talking about Jalen, just in how special of an individual he was, and how, again, another person who's saying he is every bit of what you think he might be. He is in the locker room. He said his quote was, "He is an old soul." You would never think he's like the age of or the music he listens to, or the way he conducts himself. He don't feel bad, man. He's a good dude. Like, and it's easy for it's so easy for you to root for him. It's easy for opposing fans who hate the Eagles, who will come back and tell you, "Hey, man, I don't really want you to win, but I'm rooting for Jalen."
Yeah,
right.
He's well liked across the league and well respected amongst his teammates and his opponents.
And I love it. The people, who'll go back and find people's tweets about Jalen. I don't know if he's going to be the guy. I don't know all that stuff. Well, they can't find any with me, which I love, because I said back beginning of 2021, before the season, that he could be a franchise quarterback. I got a lot of weird looks. I got a lot of different things. I just said, I don't know. There's just something about just that feeling, just that, the moxie, and we see it now. Everything that how he carries himself, everything, and what it was. It's about him getting better each year, making himself, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to get better every single game. He could have a perfect passer rating, but he can say, you know what, I can get better. I can be better. And it's just that kind of stuff and that kind of player. You can't measure. You can't find those players from just, testing them. It's just some people have it. They're not taught it. Some people have it, and it's just he's got it, and it's awesome that he's a Philadelphia Eagle.
Well, Steichen spoke about the ability for a young quarterback to get to the progression phase in their career, and was speaking on the work habits of Jalen Hurts, saying that it starts at 6:30 in the morning and usually ends at like 9 o'clock at night. Coach Singleton said the same exact thing. I said, because I'm being a super nerd and asking all the questions I can, firing them off. And I'm like, well, how is that true about him staying, at the complex? He's like, he's here all the time. He even sleeps here. He's that dialed in. And it's crazy because you think about how all the opportunities he could have had in the off season. They said that he stayed local to be dialed in. So the fact that there are all these opportunities he could have had, he chose to like lock in. I mean, we're in good hands.
I think also dating back to last year, when it was down to like Hurts or maybe getting somebody else, Wilson, whoever, like how he kept, doubling down that it's Hurts, but like the year before that, how he did his doubling down, and then he came out and did something else. So I think people, including myself, were like, "Oh, he's just saying this just to get the media off him." But clearly they surely meant what they said, and it's paying off now.
Yeah, and with that, we'll see what it takes us into his progression into next season. And again, thanks, Gayle, for joining us. Of course, Kendall, every week. We're here every Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we are probably going to have our guy, Joe Castro from the Philly podcast on Talk a Little Combine. The Combine is this week. So get a little bit in terms of what we saw, certain players, prospects that kind of jumped out. So definitely get into all that. And, free agency is just right around the corner. It's 12 days away before the legal tampering period. So, like I said, when the Eagle season ends so late, everything comes up really fast. So it's a jam-packed off season. So definitely come check us out next Wednesday. We'll be right back here again, same time, same place. But with that, I always end it with a very happy and joyful, not dwelling on any other losses. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.